The first wound of goodness. There is a silence that no one talks about. The silence of the good man, the good woman, the one who has always believed that kindness buys loyalty, that fairness guarantees respect, that being gentle in a world of sharpened edges will somehow protect them. It is the silence of the person who stood in rooms full of noise, who gave their best, who carried everyone else's burdens, who offered forgiveness again and again, only to discover, in the end, that goodness is not armor. It is bait. You were told this lie early. A mother whispered it to you in your childhood. Be kind, and the world will be kind back. A teacher rewarded your fairness. Share, or they'll share with you. A friend reminded you. Do the right thing, and people will notice. And you believed them. Of course you did. What child wouldn't? But the years went on, and slowly, cruelly, you began to see a darker truth. No one remembers the kind. They remember the ones they couldn't cross. Look back. The bosses you served, the people you loved, the so-called friends who leaned on you. They praised your fairness in public, but in private, they tested it. They smiled at your patience, but secretly, they used it. They admired your morality until they realized it made you predictable. And when it came time for decisions, hard, cutting, irreversible decisions, it wasn't your kindness they respected. It was their ability to manipulate it. You have felt this. You have replayed conversations in your head, wishing you had spoken sharper, struck faster, ended cleaner. You have sat in bed at 2 a.m., chest heavy, thinking, why does doing the right thing always feel like losing? You have tasted the bitterness of watching someone cruel win while you told yourself that fairness would catch up to them. But fairness never comes. It is a mirage for the powerless, a lullaby for the naive, a leash for the good. The powerful do not worship fairness. They worship advantage. Machiavelli warned, it is safer to be feared than loved. But you were never taught that line. You were taught the opposite. You were told that love is the ultimate prize, that fear corrodes trust. And so you built your life chasing love, approval, understanding. Yet where has it left you? They loved your gentleness until they needed a leader. They loved your morality until they needed results. They loved your empathy until they smelled blood. This is the first wound of goodness. Not that others fail you, but that your very virtue becomes their opportunity. People sense it. They feel your hesitation. They learn your rhythm. They cry victim while sinking the knife. And you, because your identity is woven into being reasonable, you stay silent. You believe silence proves maturity. You believe restraint proves strength. You believe compassion proves wisdom. But here, in the arena of power, silence is weakness. Restraint is invitation. Compassion is blood in the water. And every predator knows what to do when they smell blood. You wait. You explain. You hope. But they do not see your restraint as nobility. They see it as a window. They test you. They press you. They push until they learn exactly where you break. And when you do, the failure is not theirs. It is yours. Not because you were cruel, but because you weren't cruel enough. History does not remember the kind-hearted. It does not honor the patient. It does not reward the forgiving. History remembers the ones who became untouchable, the ones who carried kindness like a mask and power like a weapon, the ones who learned that in leadership, morality is not armor, it is a map. And the moment you hand your enemies that map, they will chart your downfall step by step. Listen carefully. This is not about cruelty. It is not about abandoning the heart. It is about evolution. Because right now, if you are still clinging to the belief that goodness is enough, you are walking blind into a battlefield. And in battle, mercy is not wisdom. It is hesitation. And hesitation is death. The truth will hurt you before it heals you. Every time you pause to do the right thing, someone else does the smart thing. Every time you weigh fairness, someone else takes advantage. Every time you hope they will see your heart, they are already sharpening their blade. The world does not reward softness. It devours it. You don't need to be cruel. You don't need to be reckless. But you must stop being predictable. Stop being safe. Stop being the one who waits for acknowledgement that never comes. Real leadership begins here. Not when you are loved. Not when you are understood. Not when you are praised. It begins the moment you decide that you no longer need their approval. That you no longer need their validation. That you no longer need to be good. Because you were never weak. You were conditioned to believe that weakness was noble. But nobility without power is theater. And no one follows theater for long. You must learn the first lesson of power. To survive, you must be untouchable. To lead, you must be feared more than you are loved. And to be remembered, you must abandon the illusion that morality protects you. Morality does not protect you. It protects them from the version of you that would win. The illusion of fairness. There comes a moment in every good person's life when they cling to a word that feels wholly untouchable, beyond criticism. That word is fairness. You have built entire decisions on it. You have risked relationships for it. You have silenced your instincts, delayed your actions, and ignored your advantage, all because you wanted to appear fair. Because you believed fairness was the purest form of leadership. But here's the dark truth, the one that feels like betrayal to even say aloud. Fairness is not real. It is not a principle. It is a trick handed to you by those who benefit most when you believe in it. Fairness is an illusion, and illusions are controlled by the powerful. Think of it. When you sit in a room and weigh every voice equally, who benefits? Not the strong, not the prepared, not the loyal. The manipulators benefit. The complainers benefit. The ones who raise their voices at the right moment benefit. Fairness makes no distinction between loyalty and betrayal. It gives equal weight to those who stand by you and those who quietly sharpen their knives. And you, because you want to be seen as impartial, you listen. You nod. You divide resources equally. You soften punishment so that no one accuses you of being harsh. You convince yourself that balance creates stability. But it doesn't. Balance is not stability. Balance is the death of momentum. And while you pause to balance the scales, the ambitious tilt them in their favor. They take. They demand. They push harder, louder, further. Because they know you are afraid of being seen as biased. And they weaponize that fear until you are no longer leading. You are refereeing. But here's the tragedy. No one follows a referee. They don't admire your even-handedness. They don't respect your patience. They don't value your transparency. They smell your fey. The truth is brutal but simple. Fairness is not a shield. It is a weakness detector. And everyone around you is running diagnostics. They test you. They bend rules just enough to see if you'll bend with them. They raise their voices just enough to trigger your guilt. They press your principles, not because they want truth, but because they want to find where you break. And when you break, when you bend rules in the name of fairness, when you explain yourself twice to prove you are neutral, when you soften punishments to appear just, they win. They win not because they are stronger, but because you allowed your illusion to be used against you. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. A prince must appear just, but act to his advantage. Appear fair, but move with strategy. Speak neutrality, but strike with intent. Because if you cannot do both, you will be devoured. The emotional pain here is not theoretical. You have lived it. You have walked out of meetings drained because you tried to please everyone. You have left conversations feeling hollow because your fairness left no one truly satisfied. You have given second chances, equal opportunities, softened rules, only to realize that those you spared grew bolder, while those who were loyal began to wonder if loyalty even mattered. The faithful see your fairness as weakness. The unfaithful see your fairness as permission. And you see your fairness as virtue. But virtue without consequence is an invitation to chaos. The truth you must face is this. In positions of power, fairness is not your duty. Effectiveness is, because fairness pleases no one in the end. It pleases the complainer until he realizes he can complain again. It pleases the betrayer until he sees there are no real punishments. It pleases the weak until they realize strength will always dominate them anyway. And all the while, you weaken yourself. You waste your time dividing resources that should have been used to build power. You soften punishments that should have been lessons. You open the door to manipulation and call it justice. But justice is not balance. Justice is outcome. A good leader says, I must be fair. A powerful leader says, I must be effective. And if you cannot yet feel the difference, look at your own scars. Every scar you carry, betrayal, exploitation, disrespect, it came not from cruelty, but from fairness. It came from the moments you tried to balance what should have been tilted. From the times you gave everyone a voice, even those who deserved only silence. From the times you bent your standards so no one could accuse you of bias. But bias is not weakness. It is clarity. You must learn this. Powerful leaders favor allies, reward loyalty, punish betrayal. Not because they are cruel, because they understand that loyalty dies in fairness. If your enemies fear no punishment, your allies trust no reward. And if your allies trust no reward, you will lead nothing. Do not call this cruelty. Call it clarity, because fairness is not clarity. Fairness is fear disguised as virtue. And every time you choose fairness over effectiveness, you bleed. Not on the surface, not immediately, but slowly, invisibly, fatally. This is the second wound of goodness. That fairness does not protect you. It destroys you. And until you let go of this illusion, you will never lead. Not truly, not permanently, not powerfully. You will remain the referee in a game where others decide the score. The betrayal of mercy. Mercy feels holy, doesn't it? It feels sacred. It feels like proof that you are not like them. That no matter how cruel the world becomes, you still carry a heart untouched by venom. You remember the faces of those you spared. The employee you gave a second chance, even though they failed the first. The friend you forgave, even though they lied. The partner you trusted again, even though they had already shown you who they were. You told yourself mercy was strength. You told yourself mercy bought loyalty. You told yourself mercy would awaken their better nature. But would it really buy? Time. Not for you, for them. Time to regroup. Time to scheme. Time to sharpen the same blade they once buried in your back. They did not see depth in your mercy. They saw hesitation. They did not see wisdom. They saw weakness. They did not see forgiveness. They saw permission. And in that permission, they began plotting their return. This is the cruelty of mercy. It does not transform others. It only exposes you. You think you are building loyalty, but you're building an army of unpunished offenses. You think you're showing strength, but you are mapping out hesitation. You think you are buying gratitude, but you are planting resentment. Because here is the truth that no one dares to admit. The ones you spare will not thank you. They will resent you. Deep down, they know they deserve punishment, and that knowledge burns like poison. So they rewrite the story in their heads. You weren't merciful. You were weak. You weren't forgiving. You were afraid. You didn't spare me. You failed to stop me. And that resentment grows. It festers until one day it returns as betrayal. Not because you were cruel, but because you weren't cruel enough. Machiavelli warned, if you must injure a man, do it in such a way that you need not fear his revenge. But you wound instead of destroy. You offer warnings where there should have been silence followed by action. You let them feel safe when they should have felt nothing but danger. You give them rope, and they use it to hang you. And what happens next? Your mercy turns into erosion. Your authority becomes sand slipping through your fingers. Your people stop fearing you. And when they stop fearing you, they stop following you. You have lived this. You know the weight of giving another chance, only to watch the same betrayal replay with sharper teeth. You know the hollow ache of realizing that the loyalty you thought you earned was only compliance until a better offer came along. You know the sting of defending someone again and again, only for them to abandon you when it mattered. Mercy feels like wisdom when you give it, but it feels like regret when you live it. Because power does not forgive delays. Power does not pause for your conscience. Power does not reward patience. And every time you hesitate in the name of mercy, you hand your enemy another opening, another chance, another moment to breathe while you choke on your own restraint. The battlefield has no room for saints. Every second you spend considering whether they deserve another chance is a second someone else is claiming ground. Political, financial, psychological, it does not matter. They move. You pause. They advance. You hesitate. And by the time you resolve your inner conflict, the war is already lost. But you don't just lose territory. You lose presence. You lose weight. You lose inevitability. Because when people see that your punishments have gaps, they whisper. They whisper that you are soft. They whisper that you can be persuaded. They whisper that your hand is not as heavy as they once feared. And soon, the whispers become shouts. Soon, everyone is testing. Soon, everyone is pressing. And the throne you thought was yours becomes a chair they take turns sitting in. Do not mistake this. Mercy is not kindness. Mercy is hesitation. And hesitation is blood in the water. If you punish once. Punish hard. Punish loud enough that no one questions whether you will do it again. Do not explain. Do not justify. Do not make speeches about second chances and growth. Because the battlefield does not care about your speeches. It only remembers your silence or your strike. Mercy will soothe your conscience, but it will not protect your power. And in leadership, conscience without power is not noble. It is fatal. This is the third wound of goodness. That mercy does not heal. It kills. Not because you wanted to believe in people, but because you wanted them to believe in you. Not because you forgave, but because you hoped forgiveness would transform them. Not because you spared them, but because you needed to feel that sparing them made you righteous. But righteousness does not rule. It rots. And if you do not learn to let go of mercy, you will not just be betrayed. You will be erased. The trap of being understood. There is a desperation in you that you have never named. A quiet craving that gnaws at the edges of your decisions, your words, your presence. It is not the need for power. It is not the need for wealth. It is the need to be understood. You tell yourself it is noble. You tell yourself transparency creates trust. You tell yourself clarity builds respect. So you explain your decisions. You justify your motives. You reveal your thought process as though handing people your insides will make them love you. But here is the unbearable truth. Every time you explain, you shrink. You think your words make you larger, but they make you smaller. You think transparency makes you trustworthy, but it makes you predictable. You think justification earns respect, but it bleeds insecurity. They do not listen to your explanations for understanding. They listen for openings. Every word you utter is a window. Every window is an entry. And once you open it, they crawl inside your reasoning, dismantling it brick by brick. They do not care about your fairness. They do not care about your moral consistency. They do not care about your thoughtfulness. They care about what you will allow. They care about how far they can push. They care about how much of yourself you will give away while they give nothing in return. And you speak not for clarity, but for control. You explain because you are afraid of silence. You explain because you believe if they just saw your heart, they would obey. You explain because you still believe in the myth that people follow understanding. But they don't. They follow strength. They follow inevitability. They follow the leader whose silence makes them guess, whose presence makes them hesitate, whose unpredictability makes them afraid. A Machiavellian does not waste his breath on justification. He does not beg to be seen. He does not hand over his strategy like an open book. He knows that silence is heavier than speech, that ambiguity is sharper than explanation, that what people cannot decode, they fear. But you're terrified of being misread. So you hand them the manual. You show them your wiring. You let them know exactly where to press, exactly where to prod, exactly where to break you. And when they press, when they prod, when they break you, you call it betrayal. But it is not betrayal. It is consequence. Because when they finally test you, they're not punishing your cruelty. They are punishing your need to be seen. The urge to be understood comes not from strength, but from ego. You think you're building connection, but connection is not what you build. You build dependency. You build vulnerability. You build a stage for your own dismantling. The ones who understand you best will be the first to betray you. Because once they understand you, they no longer fear you. And once they no longer fear you, they will test you. It is not explanation that protects power. It is silence. Silence is weight. Silence is shadow. Silence is the uncertainty that fills their stomach with unease, that makes them wonder. What does he mean? What is she planning? What will happen if I move wrong? Every sentence you don't say becomes a weapon. Every pause becomes pressure. Every silence becomes a fog that suffocates their confidence. And that is where presence is born. Not in speeches, not in transparency, not in being understood. Presence is born in the fear of not knowing. You must learn this. Do not justify. Do not clarify. Do not hand them your reasoning like breadcrumbs. Let them starve. Let them wonder. Let them invent their own fears. Because their fears will always be sharper than your explanations. Machiavelli knew this. It is better to inspire fear through presence than to invite scrutiny through speech. And yet you still believe that speaking your heart makes you stronger. It doesn't. It makes you replaceable. Because once they know your heart, they know they can break it. Once they know your principles, they know how to bend them. Once they know your rhythm, they know when to strike. So stop speaking. Stop pleading. Stop explaining yourself to people who will use your words as chains. Let them interpret your silence. Let them whisper about your distance. Let them confuse uncertainty with depth. Let them project their own insecurities into the void you leave unspoken. And in that void, you will grow. In that silence, you will become untouchable. In that unpredictability, you will finally be feared. This is the fourth wound of goodness. That your need to be understood makes you weak. That transparency is not a gift, it is a surrender. That every time you reveal yourself, you become less of a leader and more of a servant to their interpretations. The battlefield does not care for clarity. It only respects silence. Do not explain. Do not justify. Do not open the window. Because once they understand you, they will no longer need you. And once they no longer need you, they will erase you. The inevitability of betrayal. There is a truth so bitter, so cutting, that most leaders cannot bear to face it until it is too late. That truth is this: betrayal is not an accident. It is inevitable, not by your enemies, not by strangers, but by the ones you lifted, the ones you trusted, the ones who smiled in your presence, repeated your words, sat at your table. It will not come with warning. It will not come with thunder. It will come with silence, a hesitation in their voice, a pause in their defense of you when you are not in the room. A shift so small you convince yourself it's nothing. But it's not nothing. It's the beginning. You tell yourself loyalty is safety. That if you treat people with fairness, generosity, and consistency, they will repay you with allegiance. But loyalty is not built on memory. It is built on leverage. And leverage fades the moment someone else offers more. Do not lie to yourself. Men are ungrateful, fickle, greedy. They will betray you if it serves them. Not because you failed them, but because you gave them options. And when they take those options, you will not only be wounded, you will be stunned. Because you believed kindness would be remembered. You believed loyalty was personal. You believed they were different. But they weren't. They never were. They were waiting, calculating, standing close enough to take what they could, until the moment they could take more. And you ignored the signs. You told yourself they were stressed. You told yourself they were tired. You told yourself they were still loyal. But you knew. You always knew. Every good leader makes the same mistake, confusing patience for wisdom, believing that hesitation is strategy, convincing themselves that waiting will reveal truth. But waiting does not reveal truth. It gives betrayal time to sharpen its blade. The Machiavellian never asks if he will be betrayed. He only asks when and by whom. He does not fear betrayal. He anticipates it. And when it comes, he does not pause. He does not mourn. He does not explain. He acts swiftly, coldly, completely, because hesitation is blood in the water, and blood invites a feeding frenzy. But you believe you need proof. You believe you need evidence. You believe you need to be certain before you strike. And that delay becomes your death. By the time you confirm betrayal, the damage is already done. The whispers have spread. The loyalty has shifted. The foundation has cracked. You cannot stop betrayal once it has grown. You can only stop it when it is still a seed. And that requires a cruelty you have spent your life avoiding. Hold something over everyone, not because you want to use it, but because you may have to. Because if they believe you have nothing on them, they will eventually hold something over you. This is not paranoia. It is survival. You tell yourself you don't want to rule through fear. But understand this. Loyalty without fear is theater. And theater collapses when the audience finds a better show. True loyalty is enforced, not inspired. And if you cannot enforce it, you do not lead it. Betrayal will come, not because you are weak, but because you gave them the illusion that they could get away with it. And when they finally strike, it will not be with anger. It will be with calculation, because betrayal is not emotional. It is opportunistic. Do not wait until the knife is already in your back to believe this truth. Prepare for it now. Anticipate it. Accept it, because the cold clarity of power is this. It is not betrayal that destroys you. It is your delay in responding to it. This is the fifth wound of goodness, that you will be betrayed. Not because you were cruel, but because you weren't cruel enough. And until you learn to anticipate betrayal, until you learn to act before it blossoms, you will keep losing not to your enemies, but to the ones you once called allies. The death of morality, the birth of power. Most leaders enter the throne carrying a torch. That torch is called morality. They believe it makes them different. They believe it makes them noble. They believe that if they carry it high enough, long enough, bright enough, people will follow. But morality does not illuminate the path of power. It blinds the one carrying it. You believe your principles make you strong. You believe that consistency gives you credibility. You believe that if you remain steadfast in fairness, honesty, and integrity, people will respect you. But respect is not built on virtue. Respect is built on fear. And every time you show your principles, you hand your enemies a map. Every time you reveal your code, you show them the leash they can pull. Every time you hold yourself back in the name of consistency, you let them step forward in the name of ambition. Your values do not protect you. They predict you. And the more predictable you become, the easier you are to dismantle. Do you see it now? The good man waits, hesitates, explains. The good man clings to fairness, to mercy, to morality. And while he clings, others strike. The good man is remembered in speeches, but the feared man is obeyed in silence. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. The people admire virtue when it is distant, but they punish it when it interferes with their desire. You believe your morals earn loyalty, but they don't. They invite attack, because when you draw a line, someone will always step to it, just to see if you flinch. And when you flinch, your code becomes your cage. You are playing fair in a rigged game, and you still believe your virtue will inspire others to do the same. It won't. They don't mirror your ethics. They use them. They weaponize them. They test them until you break. And when you finally abandon them out of exhaustion, they act shocked. Not because you cross a line, but because you stopped letting them hold it. So here is the final truth. Do not abandon morality. Conceal it. Display it like armor, but keep a sharper blade beneath it. Let them believe you are bound by honor, while you maneuver beneath it. Because power does not belong to the most moral. It belongs to the one who knows how to make morality a mask and a weapon. You don't need to be cruel. You don't need to be reckless. But you do need to stop being good. Because goodness is not remembered. Effectiveness is. And effectiveness demands transformation. You must stop carrying your morals like armor. Armor rusts. Armor slows you down. You don't need to be protected. You need to become the weapon. Not wild, not sloppy, but surgical, calculated, untouchable. Let go of the light. Become the shadow that bends the room when you enter it. Stop trying to soothe their fears. Start shaping them. Stop trying to be understood. Start being unreadable. Stop needing to be liked. Start being necessary. Because the moment they feel they can live without you, they will. And they will do it with a smile. So become irreplaceable, not by pleasing them, not by being fair, not by being merciful, but by becoming the force they cannot afford to cross. Your myth must do the work your smile never could. Your silence must weigh more than their words. Your presence must become inevitability itself. This is the final transformation. You will not be remembered for how kind you were. You will be remembered for how real everything became when you walked into the room. That is not cruelty. That is clarity. Stop needing to be safe. Stop needing to be seen. Stop needing to be good. Start becoming the reason everything moves when you choose to stand still. Because in the end, people do not follow virtue. They follow strength. They follow inevitability. They follow the one they cannot betray, cannot cross, cannot replace. This is where good people fail. This is where Machiavellian leaders rise. Not with conscience, but with clarity. Not with morality, but with necessity. Not with goodness, but with presence. The good man leads a moment. The feared man commands a decade. Choose who you will be.